Today we are going to be talking about an Aeropress, doing a little tutorial. It's kind of a special, long-awaited tutorial. Ever since we posted a reel doing an inverted Aeropress while we were camping, everyone's been asking for it, so the time has come. If you don't know who we are yet, I'm Gia. I'm the cafe manager for James.
I'm Sarah. I do a lot of stuff.
Before we get started, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can see what we do next.
So today we're going to be covering an Aeropress. The Aeropress is a really great tool to make coffee with. It's one of my favorite methods of making coffee. With the Aeropress, it's a super versatile coffee maker. You're able to make single cups of coffee. You're able to make like a coffee concentrate that you can water down and then make a bigger batch of coffee to share. You can also make something similar to espresso with it if you get your ratios right. Today we're just going to work on making single cup of coffee with the Aeropress. We're gonna do the inverted method. If you buy an Aeropress and you read their instruction booklet, they're actually gonna tell you to set it up where you actually brew it on your brew vessel and you have everything set up vertically so that it kind of pushes through this way. I prefer to make it inverted. A lot of people do it this way. When we actually start getting into it, you'll see the inverted method actually just gives us more control over how long the water is actually touching the coffee. Where if I brew it the normal way, not inverted, this way, water is actually gonna start dripping out of it while we're brewing. So you have a little bit less control of your contact time. So there's a few things you'll need to make an Aeropress. The first thing you're gonna start off with is an Aeropress. You're also gonna need a scale that gives you grams and time. Obviously you can have just a basic gram scale like we spoke about before. You're also gonna need the filters. So when you buy an Aeropress, it comes with like 300 filters. So if you make coffee every day, you're really set for a while, but it just comes with these little paper filters. So you need these guys. They do also make metal filters for these if you prefer a metal filter. The main difference between like metal and paper is gonna absorb all the oils from the coffee and give you like a crisper, clearer cup, where a metal filter will be a little bit more full-bodied, a little bit more like oils in the coffee getting in that brew. You'll also need hot water. You don't need to have any kind of special kettle for this, just hot water is good. We go for 200 degrees.
When we're camping, we just pour it out of a pot.
When we're camping,
it doesn't have to be a special coffee kettle.
If you bring your water up to a boil, just let it rest a few minutes just to come back down to like 200, since boil's around 212. Obviously, you'll then need a little cup to brew into. They also come with this little stirrer. You can use a spoon or whatever, doesn't matter, a knife if you're camping.
Yeah, you saw Sarah in the video with the knife.
But this
so
is
metal.
A nice little tool that comes with it, so that when we actually put the coffee in there and then fill the water up, we'll be able to get all the coffee wet.
The last thing you're gonna need is ground coffee.
The coffee should be ground like medium fine. With an Aeropress, it's a really hard thing to say like where exactly to grind the coffee because it just depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to make a really strong concentrate, you might want to go a little bit finer. If you're trying to make just a drinkable cup of coffee, anywhere close to like what you would actually do for a pour over would be pretty nice. So that like table salt, medium fine grind is a probably good way to start. Today we're actually going to be Aeropressing our Kenya. It's going to be delicious. So we'll taste it at the end and we can talk about it for just a second at the very end. First step in making an Aeropress. If you're using the paper filters like this, you're going to want to rinse your filter just like we did in the V60. We're doing this just to get rid of any like papery tastes that could be in this filter. I'm gonna rinse the paper now. We're just gonna try and rinse this. It just takes a tiny bit of water, get the filter wet. It'll stick to this little cap here, which is where our coffee actually brews through. And that's fine, it doesn't have to sit in there like absolutely perfect. You just want it to be nice and flat and rinsed. With the V60, we're rinsing with the purpose of preheating all of our vessels. With the Aeropress, we're actually not doing that same thing because we are going to brew in this right here. Plastic actually doesn't leach as much heat away from your brew, so it actually is pretty temperature stable. And then we're going to start with our coffee.
We're actually going to brew this coffee today at a 15:1 ratio, which is the same ratio we use for most of our drip coffee methods, batch brews, pour overs, things like that.
Today I'm going to start with 16 grams of coffee, and I'm actually going to do this to 240 grams of water. That is pretty much maxing out the size of this Aeropress. So when you're setting up your Aeropress, you're gonna wanna pull the plunger all the way down to the bottom where it sits nice and sturdy in there, but it's kind of as low as you can put it in there. You can make smaller recipes where you start with the plunger further in there, but for this recipe, because we know that it's gonna fill it pretty full, I'm trying to kind of max out my space here. So once I have it kind of at the most open that it can be, I'm gonna set it on my scale, I'm gonna tear everything out, and I'm gonna put 16 grams of coffee in here. I like to give it a little level shake just to make sure my coffee's all nice and level in there. I'm gonna set this aside, and then I am ready to go.
The bloom on an Aeropress, which is something that's super important when you're doing like a V60, is kind of optional with the Aeropress. So today we're not gonna do one, but you totally can. It's kind of up to you and what you like.
If you're finding your coffee isn't like getting all the flavors that you would expect out of it, or it's a little bit dull, a bloom can actually really help that. Just it kind of releases the gases first off in the coffee by pre-wetting it. If you're finding your coffee's not opening up the way you want it to, you can always add a bloom onto this recipe. I think I mentioned this with the V60, or Gia actually mentioned this with the V60. When we do any type of tutorial on making coffee in any method, we're just teaching you guys our recipe. It doesn't mean it's the one right recipe. It doesn't mean it's the best recipe. It's just kind of how we make our coffee and how we like it. And it's a good starting point. So feel free to play with techniques. With the Aeropress, there are hundreds of recipes. The Aeropress actually has a competition based around it. So you'll find
this could be the starting point for you
many
in
recipes
your competitive
for the
Aeropress career.
I'm gonna tear out my scale now so that I can actually weigh my water so I get my ratios right. When we start pouring our water in, we're actually just gonna go right up to 240. We're not gonna pour it any particular way. We're just trying to make sure all the coffee gets wet. Gia's gonna start the timer. I'm gonna pour the water. Ready, set, go. It will barely fit, but it will fit.
That's
Looks
part
like
of the
it might not, but it will.
Stressed.
240.
Nailed it.
So before I do this, you can actually, you guys can't see, but there's a little bit of dry coffee in the bottom there. So I'm just gonna take this little scoop,
carefully,
real carefully, give it a little stir
to make sure that all the coffee on the bottom is integrated and wet.
And now I'm just gonna take my little cap, screw it on top very gently, set it down,
that is
give
a
it a
full
little
son of a
screw.
gun.
And now we're gonna wait until a minute 45 to actually start pushing the coffee out. You can play with your brew time. If you want a stronger cup, you can actually let it sit longer. If it's a little bit too strong and you wish it was a little bit lighter in body, you can pull it out earlier. But for us, a minute 45 is about nice to actually start pushing it through. At a minute 45, we're just gonna take this, we're gonna kind of hold both pieces gently so they don't come apart, flip it over, and I'm just gonna start gently pushing down. I don't wanna like mash the coffee down, I'm just kind of putting a bit of pressure just to slowly push through. This actually should take until I'm at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which is pretty typical for like our pour over times too. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want a stronger cup, you can let it sit longer. It's totally personal choice.
If you're making a concentrate that you're gonna cut with water later, you also might want it to sit a little longer. It just depends on what you're going for.
At this point, I'm getting down to the very end. I'm actually listening now to hear like the air hiss out of it. So it should go like, there it is. So right when I start to hear air hissing out of it, I'm just gonna take the little plunger, pull it back just a little bit, and then I can pick it up. We've got our brewed cup of coffee right here that we can drink.
One of the coolest things about the Aeropress is how easy it is to clean. It's the same mechanisms as a French press, but because of the way it's, I don't know, constructed, you can just take off the cap, flip it over, and pop all of your coffee grounds and filter and everything through, and then this just needs a tiny rinse and you're ready to go. It's also super compact, super light. You could take it backpacking or camping, or pack it in your suitcase if you're traveling. It's just a really nice option for a hand brewed cup of coffee on the go without a whole lot of equipment. This is the full size Aeropress, but we actually carry an even smaller, more compact version called the Aeropress Go, which packs essentially into itself, into a cup with a lid and everything, so it's even more self-contained and even easier to travel with.
Let's taste our coffee. Try it, go for it.
It's good.
Ooh, that's really good.
It's really nice,
It's
actually.
really good.
Yeah.
It's either that this Kenya is really delicious.
We have a dope Kenya on the
We have a
shelves
really
right now,
good
all three
Kenya.
shops, but also
the Aeropress, honestly, it's so versatile and it just makes a really nice cup of coffee, which is why it's one of my favorite methods to brew with. The V60 is also one of my tops, but this is just so consistent. What's really cool about the Aeropress is you can break everything down to numbers and math and make it really, really structured. The V60 is a little bit harder because it really depends on like how you pour, where this is all just contact time, your brew ratios, your grind size, your water temperature, and if you know all those numbers, you can literally manipulate each one bit by bit to get what you want out of it. So it's really, really easy to make it super consistent. If you're weighing everything and using good water and grinding your coffee well, you can make really good, really consistent coffee on an Aeropress.
thank you guys so much for watching our Aeropress tutorial. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video, and then let us know in the comments what you want to see us do next.
Have you ever done an Aeropress?
Nope. First time. Get into it. That was a good YouTube voice.
Let's get into it. Like that?
You have to do the whole thing like that. I'm the cafe manager for the James. I literally almost said for the James.
So today, are you done?
I just need there to be some funny content.
All the way away. Okay.
We will never do a tutorial for French press.
We will. Don't say these things.
It actually packs. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that was a very bizarre head move.
Thank you guys.